Hey, Walter Sorrells back with more tips for the knife maker. Today, making a rest for your forge. So today I'll be making an adjustable tool rest or material rest, you can call them different things, for my forge. The point of a material rest is this. Anything that you stick in a forge will typically just lie on the bottom of the forge, which is okay in a perfect world, but you're better off, and it doesn't matter whether you're making a knife or a billet of Damascus or whatever, but you're better off if you can suspend whatever you're working on in the middle of the forge. First, it heats quicker and more efficiently if the gas can pass all the way around whatever it is that you're working on, which means faster forging and less money spent on gas. But especially if you make a lot of Damascus, the bottom of your forge is just eventually going to be swimming with flux, which gets all over whatever you're working on, and it creates all kinds of problems. Either way, a rest is really handy. And the more adjustable that rest is, the better. Ton of different ways to make them. The last one I had was eventually eaten up by fire. This is it right here. So it's time to make a new one. This time with an over-engineered, freshened up design. So I built this ugly looking forge over 2 decades ago when I had no knowledge, no skills, and no tools. Amazingly, it still works great. And somewhere along the way, I added this little rail system here that allows you to make a rest, and that rest then can slide in and out or be removed entirely. So, here's what we're aiming to make today. Incidentally, as with most of my builds, detailed plans for this build can be found on my Patreon page. Patreon supporters at any level have access to all my plans, and that amounts to quite a few knives as well as all kinds of useful tools that you can use in your shop. Link in the cards and description. Basically, this is just made from a bunch of different pieces of mild steel. A couple pieces of angle iron, some 4-inch wide flat stock, 1/2-inch round stock, and some 1-inch flat stock. The rail part is made from angle iron, and the rest of the material will be in the rest itself. This part slides in and out, and this is the resty bit. You'll notice a couple slots here. This allows you to attach various types of custom hold downs based on what you're making. Here's an example of a hold down, but you can make all kinds of variations. The main reason for adjustability in and out of the forge is that different lengths and weights of material will balance better depending on where the rest is positioned. But having a hold down in addition gives you even more flexibility to keep things off the floor of the forge or to help position them exactly where you want them in and out of the flame or whatever it might be. I'll begin by working on the rest itself. First, I'll cut the bottom from a large piece of stock on my abrasive chop saw. Now this is actually a good bit thicker piece of stock than you need. This is 3/8 and 1/4 inch would be fine. This 3/8 stock just happens to be what I have. I've also cut 2 pieces of 1 by 1/8 inch stock, which will serve as the sides of the rest. Now, in my usual gilding the lily fashion, I'm milling slots here for custom-made hold downs, the details of which I'll show later. Now, you can totally skip these if you want. I began by spotting, then drilling 2 5/16 inch holes. Then I mill 2 1/4 inch slots to the center of the holes. Once that's done, I'll weld the little sides onto the rest. This will keep stock from slipping off of the rest. I could spend a bunch of time and effort making sure they're dead square and parallel, but for something that's eventually going to get warped, bunged up, devoured by fire and all that, that's really just lipstick, so I'm not going to waste a bunch of time on that. A couple tack welds on the top, then I'll flip it and run beads down the bottom. Now let's work on the attachment arm. It'll be made from 2 pieces of 1-inch angle iron, which fits these lovely pieces of ironmongery on the side of my forge. The idea is to cut them on 45s and then butt weld them together so you get a little dog leg. Rather than dicking around with my saw setting it to 45 degrees, it's actually quicker for me just to grind them. I'll rough them here, then perfect them using the adjustable guide on my disc grinder. Now a quick weld here. A minimal amount of cleanup on the grinder, and then we can go ahead and do the final weld connecting the rest to the arm. So all that's left is the hold down. I'll start by chucking up a piece of 1/2-inch stock on my lathe. Again, we're in overkill world here. You can easily ditch the hold down part of this design and you've already got a perfectly serviceable rest. The idea here though is that you can make a variety of hold downs of different sizes and shapes that would be intended for flat stock, round handles, square stock, whatever it is you might be working on. They're removable so that you can switch them or just get them out of the way if they're not being used. Simple design. I'm just using a parting tool to cut a groove just wide enough to fit onto the rest bottom. The diameter is about 10 thou smaller than the hole I drilled. You want plenty of play so that as things heat and expand, maybe get fire scale on them, get banged around, whatever, you still have enough clearance so that nothing ever jams. Then I part off this little post. The idea here is that I'm now going to file 2 parallel flats into the shank. I could mill them, but sometimes a file is just as fast as a bunch of setup on a mill. File one side, flip, file the other. So, here's how it works. The flats allow you to slide this post all the way down to the end of the 1/4-inch channel. Then you rotate it 90 degrees in that little 5/16 hole, and it locks into the hole where it can't move until it's rotated 90 again. Next, I'll make the business end of the hold down, cold forging a gentle hook, which I'll then saw free. I've milled a small slot on the head of the post, just because, and then I welded the hook on top of the post. After some cleanup on the grinder, I end up with this. And it works exactly as planned, sliding on, rotating, and locking into place. I tend to use 1/2-inch rebar as handles when I forge Damascus billets, so this is perfectly sized that I can just barely slide it under the hook. The hook then keeps it from sliding around or rotating out of position, which can be a problem when you have an unevenly weighted billet of Damascus. They want to just keep rolling around on you. As you can imagine, you could make a bunch of hold down shaped for a particular size of tangs that you forge, particular thicknesses or shapes of stock, whatever it is. Again, this whole thing is not mission critical, but it's a cool little refinement that solves some problems that I typically run into. So here it is in action. You can move it in, you can move it out, you can flip the hold down over to the other side of the rest, You can balance a variety of lengths and weights of stock. There's just lots of versatility here, all to keep everything out of that glop down on the floor of your forge. Big improvement over my previous, more simplistic design, so big win here. Hope you enjoyed this build. Again, plans on Patreon if you're interested. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what we're doing here, please subscribe and make sure that you click on that bell so you get notified of all the latest videos. Want to buy a knife from me? Check out my modern blades at tacticsarmory.com. Digging the channel? You can support our video making efforts on Patreon. You know, I've been banging away on these videos for like 10 years, so I hope you'll show some love for all that hard work. Link in the cards and descriptions. Finally, if you're interested in making Japanese swords, check out my full line of Japanese sword videos where I show how to forge Japanese swords as well as how to polish them and how to make fittings, handles, and scabbards. WalterSorrellsBlades.com.